So the first thing we went over was the different symbols, such as N equals size of population. X equals data value. EX is the sum of all data. And parts of this are also in the textbook in chapter 3, pages 71 and 72. So the only thing that differs is that this is for population. And then for sample, like a simple random sample, X has that over it. And that means mean. All the others are still the same, and N is lowercase. So size of sample. So she went over that first. And then we went over mean, median, and mode a little bit, basically what we had done in the homework. And then the first thing I sent you, the first page, was this, and I'm basically going to redo it showing you how she did it, because it's really, really confusing. So we're going to have a data set of any numbers, and those are going to go under X. So we had 18, 5, 11, 8, and 29. That's our first column. And just like I said, X with the line over it equals mean. So we're going to calculate what the mean of all these numbers are, which the mean turns out to be, thought I wrote it down on here, but apparently I didn't. So add all the numbers, divide by 5, equals 14.2. So the mean is going to equal 14.2. And then the next column we're going to do X, so the data value, minus the mean. So it's going to be 18 minus 14.2. It's going to be 3.8. Next one is 5 minus 14.2. That equals a negative 9.2. 11 minus 14.2, negative 3.2, negative 6.2, positive 14.8. And the last column here is going to be X minus the mean squared. So the mistake that I did here at first was, I took 3.8, squared it, and that came out to be negative 14.4. What happened is I didn't involve the square in the equation, and a negative times a negative is always a positive. So then you're going to do 3.8 from right here, the answer to this part, squared. It's going to be 14.4, and so on here. So then we're done with the chart. Then we're going to move on down here. And we're going to do population deviance. This little symbol right here, it's basically an O with a little line connected to it, or sideward 6 or whatever you want to call it, is called a sigma. Oh, we have to know that. And sigma equals the sum of n. So basically, this total up here is going to be 366.8. That's the total for this column here. basically what we want to do is find the mean of that. So this is going to be 366.8 divided by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which equals 7336. This here is called the population deviance. And to go backwards, sorry, this is squared. So if you want to find out what this is alone, unsquared, you would take this number here and you would find the square root of it. So 73.36, the square root of that is, let's see. That is going to be 8.57 after rounding, of course. This here is the population standard deviation. So we have to know how to do that. And this is for population. That's the biggest thing to remember. Population. Another thing to remember is not to get too freaked out about this here, because this is what she shows us how to do on our calculator. So she showed us how to do it the long way, and then she showed us how to push a few buttons on our calculator and get all these answers. So you kind of have to grasp the concept of how to do it by hand, but you don't necessarily have to memorize that for the test. So we have the same numbers here. These answers up here. Second piece. I hope I haven't gone off the camera edge here. Okay, now we're going to do the sample, which is basically the same thing. You take the 366.8, and S is going to be for sample, squared, equals the sum, and then we're going to do lowercase n minus 1. N is pretty much population or sample. If it is capitalized, it is population. If it's lowercase, it's sample. And in sample, it's -1. So we have 5 cases here, which would be n, so 5 minus 1, or 5 data values. So we're going to do 366, which is the sum, over 5 minus 1. That's going to equal out 91.7. And that is the sample variance. And then the same thing applies. If you want to find sample itself instead of sample squared, you just take 91.7 and find the square root of it, which comes out to 9.58. And that is sample standard deviation. So basically, she showed us how to do this on our calculator, so we don't have to know how to do it the long way. So let's see if I can remember how to do it. So I have the T83 plus, so I'm not sure if you have the 84 or the 83. Should be similar. It's also in the textbook. Somewhere in chapter 3 she explains it. However, it's very vague. She kind of shows you screenshots of her calculator, which doesn't really tell you anything whatsoever. And that is on pages 88 and 89 if you want to take a look at that. But what you're going to do is you're going to find your stat button, and you're going to hit that. It's going to tell you edit, sort, clear list, all that. Well, you want to edit your numbers. If there's anything in these columns You can go up to L1 up here and hit clear, and it'll clear it. Yeah, okay. Also, if you need to clear your entire calculator, like there's so much stuff up there in all the columns, what you would do is hit second plus, because memory is right here. And then you would go down to reset, which is 7. And then you want to get rid of all. It'll tell you resetting erases everything. 1 is no, 2 is yes, basically. So you just hit 2. Clears everything. So again, you go back to stat. You want to hit 1 for edit. And you want to put these numbers in. These numbers that we just had. So we're going to do 18, enter, 5, enter, 11, 8, and 29. Okay, see if I remember how to do this now. Okay, so we enter all our values and then we hit the stat button again. This time we don't want to edit, we want to calculate it. So we're going to hit the right arrow button. And we're only doing one variable, just x. So we're going to hit 1 for one variable statistics. And then it's going to ask you basically what column you want to do. We did column 1, which is also known as L1. And that is right above the 1 here. So if you wanted to do column 2, you would hit second 2, or 3, second 3. But again, we put ours in column 1. So you want to hit second 1 and enter. This gives you basically everything that we just did. X with the line over it, meaning the mean, it gives you the mean. And then it tells you the, let's see, what was the 71 for? I don't remember what the 71 was for. It tells you S, X, so that was, let's see, that was our sample standard deviation is SX, 9.57. That's what we got here, or 9.58 after rounding. And then that little circle is the sigma again. That was the first one we did, and after rounding, 8.56. Tells you N is 5, because you have 5 in the data. And then the next thing it tells you is minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and max. That's what we worked on next. So let's see here. Say you have a group of data. Say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So what we're going to find is, let's see, I think she called it, if I can get to it here. And this is what we'll be doing on the homework and also a little bit on the test. And this is section 3.3, I believe, under ranking. We learn how to find the different percentiles in a group of data. So let's see here, if I can find it. Okay. The interquartile range. And she also calls it the 5-number summary, which is what it's going to be called on the test. She's going to ask us for the 5-number summary. So what we're going to do with this is the 5-number summary is the minimum, Q1, which I'll explain in a minute, median, Q3, and max. You might already guess that minimum is going to be 5, maximum is going to be 25. Minimum is the smallest number in the data, maximum is the largest. Median, we know how to find that. You know, you go in from the sides basically. It's going to be between 15 and 20, which we believe that's 17.5. So that's going to be the median.
I'm just worried about what Piper wrote about.
5 for minimum, 25 for max. Now, Q1 basically stands for 25%. So the 25 percentile. And what we're going to do with that, let's see here if I can find my paper again. Quartile 1 stands for the 25th percentile, median is the 50th percentile, quartile 3 is the 75th percentile. So basically what we want to do is we want to take, you don't involve the median, so you ignore the 17.5. You take, let's see, shoot, did I do that wrong? Yes, I totally did that wrong. The median is not 17.5 because it is an odd group of numbers. The median is going to be 15. I apologize for that. So now we're going to find, let's see, quartile 1. So you ignore the median. What you want is to find the middle of the bottom numbers. And so you basically add those together and find the median of those, or the mean of those, sorry. So 5 plus 10 is going to be 15. 15 divided by 2, I believe that's 7.5. Yeah, that's 7.5. So Q1 is going to be 7.5. Now we want to find the upper one, the Q3, which is the third quartile, the 75th percentile. Again, you ignore the median when you're trying to find Q1 and Q3. So again, we just want to find the median of those two. So 25 plus 20 divided by 2, 22.5. So basically you want to find 0%, 100%, 50%, 25%, and 75%. But you can't always say, oh, okay, well, this is the middle, so this is 50. This is 0, so this must be 25. Because once you do the math, it adds up to be something else. That was something she warned us about in class. So this is the 5-number summary. This is what she's going to be asking for on the test. She's also going to ask for the IRQ, which is the interquartile range. And range is highest minus lowest, as we learned last week. So we're going to take the highest, which is 25, minus 5. That's going to equal 20. So the range is 20. Now one thing she said is she's going to ask on the test for the 5-number summary, and then she's also going to ask what the range is, and she says a lot of people just put the 5-number summary and forget about the range. They feel it's just included. So always remember to do both. Let's see, I think that was pretty much it. She went over, let's see, she went over the practice test a little bit. This is one of them here. When we're finding the median, as you probably know, you have to write them all out, like, say 1, 2, 3. Say you have a data set like that, you have to make sure that they're in order like that. If they're written like this, we have to show our work and put them in the proper order, and then show ourselves finding the median. Mode is the most common number in the data set. The range again is highest minus lowest. Let's see. Also, one thing that she went over that kind of confused me, because I didn't know about it before, when we learn about weighted averages. For instance, I'll do this one here. You multiply the grade by the weight. So, say 75 times, change this weight, you have to change one of them. The weight is always the easiest to change, into a decimal. So 90 times 0.10, and so on down. She says you'll find out here the weight does not equal 100. So when you get your final answer after you multiply and add, she says you have to divide it by 75, because this is only 75%. In other words, 25% is missing that could have been, say, the final or something like that, which was a little confusing for me, but I guess it's something you just kind of have to practice to get the concept of. Another thing she said is that she's going to be in class Wednesday early to help anyone who needs it, and so is our SI. I plan on probably going in a little bit sooner just to practice. Here she went over ordered stem and leaf diagram, which I guess you guys went over in class last Wednesday. We need to go over left skewed, right skewed, those kinds of graphs. That's, I believe, in chapter 2. Another thing is relative frequency histograms. Again, what we went over more in chapter 2. And that's basically it. And like she said at the beginning of class, she has a lot of these, like these practice tests and stuff are online in the WAMAP to practice. There's multiple choice ones to do, and then there's ones to print out that look like this. And she says these are basically going to be the exact same questions that are on the test. So that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions, just text me or call me. Hopefully this video actually works out and it's easy to understand.